Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I'm your host, DBJ, and my producer decided to take this very moment to jump up and have a look. All right, guys, how are you? Welcome to our discussion on Obsidian Star, this science fiction tabletop role playing game that we are developing for free, and the setting and the parameters and absolutely the technology we have involved in describing the setting. Now, um, to let you know, this discussion about technology and more specifically immortality, this isn't new. Um, Outside of tabletop role playing games, th- the the idea of moving closer and closer to effective immortality is a discussion for post-humanism, transhumanism, and that sort of thing. Um, Having listened to a number of discussions about it, of course, if today, right today, um, you see, Shai says this immortality is going to be a pig and a poke, isn't it? I'm not sure exactly what that reference is. You're going to have to break that down for me. But I'm pretty sure I think I know what it means. So one of the, one, if you ask a person on the street if they could become immortal today in an instant, maybe a pill or something, hey, drink this concoction, you're immortal. Some people may have an actual problem with that. Um, but in practice, humanity has always been creeping closer and closer towards immortality, simply due to our lifestyle, simply due to the foods we eat, the locations we live. We are all effectively trying to create a safer and safer environment for ourselves, including if we just go straight to medicine. Technically, medicine is the study of immortality. It's just done in little small bits and pieces. And so, um, a creeping towards immortality is more subtle than we think it is, because none of us would say, "Hey, I'd like to go back to medicine 100 years ago." Well, no, let me take that back. There are some people who would prefer to go back to medicine 100 years ago, but that's a different story. There's a deal where you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Ah, yes, yes. Um, Boy, what's a? I, I'm trying to think of another variation of that. I can't think of one. Uh, so yeah, getting into a deal. So one of the issues about, and I'm using the word effective immortality, is that this isn't a Highlander situation like in the movie where you just walk around, you're suddenly immortal, and you're just like woohoo. It does take some work on your part, and then it takes some work on the side of technology and society and economics. There's a bit of those factors involved in it, and of course, today, when it comes to the rich and poor, we know people who have more money tend to have longer lives because they can. The stresses of life itself, the physical stresses, the environmental stresses, the social stresses, aren't as great for those on a lower status. So of course they live longer, and or at least have a wider range of uh, I'll say usable life. um, at a very early age, able to have some more independence, and then all the way into their later stages of life, having access to medicine that gives them a greater um, quality of life. So, how is immortality addressed in Obsidian Star and posthumanism? Well, there's two factors, and one factor is far more important than the other factor. So, one factor is the body that you are in. So, is the biological what type of body are you in? Are you in a biological body that is maybe grown, maintained? Is it the body that you have that you were born with and just oh, what's the oh? I should have looked this up. There's there's the thought experiment of having a sailing vessel, and you start to replace each of the boards in the sailing vessel. At a certain point, as you start to maintain the sailing vessel and you've replaced all of the wooden boards in it, is it still the same vessel? And the same can go for your biological body. If you start replacing your organs and things like that, are you still the same person? Uh, little side note: you still are the same person, because none of us today have the uh, same cells that we had when we were born. Ship of Theseus. That's it. Thank you. um, Thank you, there, dead man. I knew it. I was like, what's the name of that issue? So if you take parts of your biological body and start improving them, replacing them, um, I don't know a better term for this. Washing your body of broken DNA and things like that. Uh, so that part of maintaining your biological body is part of immortality. Or you could just get rid of your old biological body and start living in new ones, maybe a clone of your body, of the body that you were born in. And we don't have to stop there. You can live in other bodies. Clinton says reincarnation. Not, I suppose, from a certain point of view, from your own point of view, maybe not. From someone else's point of view, maybe. Um, so we don't need to live in our own body. We also don't need to live in a biological body. We can live in a mechanical body. And that mechanical body, of course, requires maintenance and things of that nature. But having the choice in what kind of body you live in is important. But being able to switch bodies comes to our second issue, which is, and in this world, bodies are, the slang term for bodies are jackets. Uh, but we get to our other situation, which is our minds. I'm going to get to to our co-host here. In the mind, slang term zipper, you can zip yourself into another jacket and continue to live on. And that becomes effective immortality. So your mind is basically digital information, and can just be downloaded into a stacked carbon hard drive and inserted into another body. It can be beamed across our solar system to another location, a receiving area, to be put inside of another body. Immortality. But it's not quite that. Even that isn't even quite that simple. So let's see. Drew says we are all ships of Theseus. Yeah, absolutely. Since we all change all the time, not just physically but also mentally. And here's something a little bit scary if you're into like a lot of philosophical thinking. Some people think that when we fall asleep, we we are undergoing a process that when we wake up, we are no longer the person who we were when we fell asleep. That every single time we wake up, we're something new. We're a version of our old selves, but we aren't exactly the old self. Which, I mean, you know, you could argue that to your face turns blue, but what we are considering is that you are the same person. So if you download your brain, you beam yourself, you are, for all intents and purposes, you are the same person. Taste of Benas says, if you can you be free if you're immortal? You mentioned immortal slaves a few times. I did. And that's pretty horrible. Because once you start adding, when you don't have a time limit, some of the things we think of in our modern context is based around the fact that we all have limited time frames. Um, but when you start to add effective immortality into a thing, it changes the dynamics. So, um, for example, if we think about politics or CEOs of corporations, or someone dedicating their life to a thing, in our reality, there's a limit to that, right? We no matter how powerful a CEO, they have a lifespan. And so, no matter how dictatorial an individual is over a nation, they have a lifespan. Now, within our own lifespan, we may not prefer that person to be in power or have control, but there comes an end to it. Like I always think about that, like here in the States, about um, you know, racist assholes, and I'm like, no, they're gonna die. So, we don't need to be. We can be upset, but we don't need to be too upset. A lot of those people, those old asses, are gonna die off, and hopefully they won't spread their seed too much, in their mindsets and things like that. So, yeah, but when you're immortal, and you have power and you're problematic, ooh, ooh. And then what happens to the people that come from behind you who subconsciously think that they have a chance? What happens to them? So the End King says you have to be very careful when designing the brain for your new body. If there's enough of a disparity in either direction, that can be very bad. Yes, yes, um that's why we have a baggage system for the game. You could be forcibly placed inside of a body that you don't attune with, that you have a dysmorphic connection with. Not that the body is terrible, but your brain and the body you are in don't mesh very well. So that's a possibility. That's part of the enslavement of immortals, is that um uh, what's the television show based off of the books, Altered Carbon. Our main character wakes up, and when our main character wakes up, he's inside of a body he's not used to. He's an expert. Don't worry about it. He'll be fine. The body has like combat mods and all that kind of stuff, biological combat mods and heightened reflexes or whatever. But he's brought back out of ice, like well over 100 years later, to solve a murder of a very rich guy who's like, I'll make you a deal. You solve who murdered me, and I'll let you keep the body. Which basically means that our main character is like, like if I don't go along with this, what happens to me? And he's got to both figure out the crime and finagle his way, kind of like slither his way out of this situation, or he gets put back on ice. And that not just could be, but is probably a real threat to our player characters, that if they work for or are entangled in something, that a very powerful, very rich um, bad guy could very much, ruin the lives of the player characters, the stars, by going like, yeah, the next time they beam themselves or upload their bodies or whatever, do something for me, would you? Trap them in a VR world and call me when that happens. Shice, it's funny you mentioned it. A customer is trying to cybernetically enslave me right now. Yeah, yeah. There's people don't think about it, but listen, society's kind of trying to do that with people today as consumers. Yeah, Juice is thinking about it. I do not consider the mind to be a thing unto itself. It's the process of the brain. Oh. Thus, the zipper is for me like the flame on a candle. It does not exist independently of the candle. Guess for me, there are just the jackets in Obsidian Star. Really, I hadn't considered someone would think about that way. I like that. Yeah, yeah. I bet alcohol will still f you up even if you're immortal. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's nothing protecting your body. Immortality doesn't make you invulnerable. Immortality is if nothing bad happens to you, your life continues on. Shai says John Romero is trying to achieve immortality. The designer of Quake. Huh. He said if you make it another 40 years, technology will have advanced to that point, and that was 10 years ago. Yes, there is this. Um, Futurists say that the longer we live, the greater medicine will be that will take us past the point at which we would die. Uh, uh, that sounds strange to say because it isn't that immortality. It isn't. It's if medicine can take us 1 year, um, extend our lives 1 year further than we would normally have passed away, then effectively medicine makes us immortal, if that makes sense. So, for example, to bring up cancers of all types, many cancers are very lethal if you get them. But if medicine can extend our lives to the next point at which that medicine can then extend our lives to the next point at which medicine, you understand what I'm saying? Like it's like skipping from lily pad to lily pad. If we can get to the next point ahead of our own demise, effectively medicine makes us immortal. And that's what some futurists are thinking. Yeah, baggage for all eternity. Yeah, carrying around all that shit. Yeah. Dead Man says 300 years. Is that the is is that a how long Takashi was on ice? Was it 300 years? I feel like the amount of time spent in Altered Carbon was a little bit too long for the story. It does to I don't know why. Just it doesn't add up because so much stuff can happen in hundreds of years. It's mind-boggling for somebody to wake up and unless there's a stagnation in society, which could happen. Yeah, Dead Man says yes, the novel said 300 years. Immortality could also bring about a lot of stagnation as well. I mean, if you have political leaders and corporate leaders, I suppose people in power, very influential individuals, living extremely long lives, at a certain point, they may come to the point where they like what society is like and not want it to change. And then the young people being like less than 100 years or 200 years old, may not have as much influence as the Methuselahs, the antediluvians that are living very long lives who are like, nah, we don't need to change. And everyone's like, we can do this now. And they're like, nah, that's all right. And hundreds of years pass by. They're like, nah, I still like it the way it is. High school was enough to ensure that I'll have baggage for all of eternity. I'm with you. I'm with you there. Yeah, Shitlord says, brain cell massacre from drinking will make the perfect immortal vegetable man. Yeah, unless there's a way to wash away destroyed cells to grow some new ones. I don't know. Yeah, Transylvanian immortality is infinitely superior. I don't know. Maybe vampirism is a mythological version of scientific immortality. Maybe just a little bit. Maybe. Okay. So, um, let's get into this setting. All right. So our player characters are going to love to feel like they're immortal, that death is off the table. And even if they go on suicide missions, they know that, hey, there's a backup version of my brain. There's a jacket, a body waiting for me. I can just zip into a new jacket and I'm ready to go at this. Shice's keyboard arthritis forever. That would suck. So the problem, the heroism of living forever and being able to navigate into this world is awesome, right? Player characters are like, death is off the table. My character's going to live forever. Um, uh, I'm done. Let's play this game. The problem is this isn't just reserved for players. This is a part of a society. And when you have people who have access to this, players who may want to go around and start putting blaster bolts into the heads of their enemies may realize or will soon realize that their enemies that they can't eliminate their enemies so easily if their enemies also have backups of themselves, also have other bodies, have contingency plans. And so being an assassin in this world is a lot more difficult than just going around and destroying someone's body. What about their mind? Which means that you may have to uh, battle your way to recover their zip drive, their zipper in the back of their heads, find out if they have any kind of technologies that have them upload their brains in real time if they are killed through some like emergency process to beam if are their brains being their neural pathways being beamed somewhere on the planetary surface they're on or being beamed across the solar system in some hidden location. And then you have the issue of having their brains zoxed, right? Like, are they copies of themselves? Are they the body that they're in? Spoiler alert for Altered Carbon television show, our main characters running around the story but our main character's sister, in hindsight, is portraying a number of characters, NPCs, if you will, that our main character, Takashi, encounters, and he doesn't even, as expert and badass as he is, even he doesn't realize his own sister is inside the bodies of other individuals. So, whether they are in a biological body, whether they're in a body that's not the same gender, you don't know who it is you're talking to, and where they are and where they are in their life. You blow away a bad guy, the next individual you meet that's carrying your bags to a hotel, that person might be that bad guy keeping up with you. So yeah. Yeah, Caligula says, Immortal Assassin Mission, your ticket to a forever campaign. Yep, yep. Do you even call them campaigns in Obsidian Star if it keeps going on forever and ever? Here's another thing. This is just a slight sociological note. With immortality, do we rethink our personal relationships? Like, for example, is there a statute of limitations on forgiveness or love or marriage or friendship, right? Like, do people just keep friends for, like, does friendship end at 40 years and then we just drop it? If someone says, I would like to marry you, and for all eternity, it like sounds horrible to say this, but would we rethink what eternity means? Like, or would society start adding time limits to the words of forever? Right? Like, oh, we're going to renew our vows every 100 years, because people would normally, because in this future where you could live forever, that's just what people do. And would it become an accepted practice? Like, oh, it's been 200 years, but I guess it's over. So hey, I'll see you later. You're like, okay, no hard feelings. Again, because this comes up in Vampire the Masquerade and the Vampire White Wolf games. It's like, if you embarrass someone or you owe them money, or I don't know, you hurt someone's feelings, and they hold on to that shit for like 150 years, do you shrug your shoulders and you're like, dude, get over it? Like, really? It's been 150 years. Like, I forgot about that 35 years ago. You know, at a certain point, um, would we as human beings, um, have a dissonance with time that goes on further than our biological processes enables us to do? And that, I know that for a fact? I don't know, but are there people suffering from that in this world? Of course there are. Of course. Drew says, speaking of Altered Carbon, if the PCs dies, but the next jacket uses not zipper directly, but instead a stored memory of the character, would they still have the degeneration? That's a good point. Okay, so all right. Here's the first, I'm going to talk game mechanics. No player should ever be punished for the realities of the game setting. So your player, you've been on a 3-week mission, you gained all these skills, you're a badass, you get ready to solve the issue, and the big bad ends up like going like, nope, and kills your character. And then you wake up having lost 3 weeks of information and knowledge and needing to discover how you died. You should not be punished numerically for having lost that information. That, not only does that suck, that's just being an asshole, right? Like, because you earned that time. Now, here's the reality. Does it make sense that a person who wakes up having lost 3 weeks of their life is actually better now than they were before? No, it doesn't make any sense. But they earned it. So, whatever. They wake up, they have a newfound motivation to solve whatever happened to them. Great. They're a greater badass than we remember them from 3 weeks earlier, right? Whatever. So numerically, no, no player should ever be punished for that. The reality of the situation is, you don't know what happened at all for 3 weeks. You lost that memory. You don't know. And there's a book called Voice of the Whirlwind, where a character wakes up 15 years out of time, wakes up, has had relationships, and the people he knows have gone on with their own lives, and lost 15 years of his life and is trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and is being manipulated by the people in his life because they know what type of person he became during that 15-year gap. And this character doesn't know because he's brand new. So, yeah. Gaster Two Soul says, a small quote from a campaign. All right. You wish to live forever? To watch as the seas boil over and be born anew, to feel the volcanic rock shift at your feet, to watch as even words carved in stone slowly fade into nothing but smooth markings on rock. It will just be you, only you, until the last star fades, until the last dream has been dreamt. That is immortality. Andrew off the red. I don't know where that's from. I like that. I like that quote. And yes, there is a bit of the if I live too long, I'm going to basically die, which is a truism, and that is not only a situation, um, uh, like a psychological thing in the back of the head, but in Obsidian Star, there are very powerful people who are like, yeah, mathematically speaking, the longer I live, the greater chance I'm going to die. So how do I keep myself from um, eradicating the very slim chances that, I don't know, being hit by a micrometeorite, or suffering from some kind of disease, or I don't know, irradiation or something like that. Yeah, there's a bunch of things like that, just simple accidents and whatnot. Drew says, I mean, since if it is a backup, they will not remember or have experienced their death. You are absolutely correct. But then there's the other horror of waking up having had experienced your death. So yes, there is now, mechanically speaking, in this game, uh you have 6 chances at death before your character is kind of pretty much unplayable. Not that your character is dead, but it's just mechanically speaking, your character just is an NPC from after 6 deaths. Actually, it would become the 7th death. But um, but yes, you will probably be walking around with some kind of dissonance, i.e., baggage, because of the fact that waking up knowing that you were killed in the first place is not just traumatic, but imagine seeing your own self like dead. That's pretty horrific, you know. And I mean, would you disassociate one person from another or whatever? Yeah, yeah, it would be. These are not first world problems. These are K1 problems. These are Kardashev level 1 problems, I think, um, instead of first world problems. But yeah, Taste Banat says, "What if you are so tired of living forever that your campaign mission is to just die?" Yes, yes. Thank you very much. Go there, and your enemies keep putting you back in a jacket so they can enslave you. Um, that's real talk. Oops. Yes, that's real talk there, Banat. Yes, very much an enemy or someone maybe you're devoted to, or maybe you made an oath of some sort. Maybe your brain has been edited and you don't remember making the promise that you made, that the agency that keeps putting you back in your body is like, we need you to do this again. And you're just like, no, please stop doing this. And they're like, nope, you are an artist of death. We're going to send you back out on missions. Here's some heavy weaponry, and here's a target. Keep going. And you're like, no, I don't want to do this any longer. I just want to sit back and read books and stuff. Yeah, yeah, that's a realism. Yes. As a matter of fact, considering that since your body can have an edited, can be, you can edit your body. Ooh, edited it. Sheesh. Because you can edit your body, you can also edit your mind. This can be by your own choice, maybe edit away some of the traumatic experiences you've been through. Um, Although some could argue that trauma itself, hardships itself, shapes us who we are. So that's another issue. Or maybe an individual who has been erasing so much trauma that you are no longer the person you thought you used to be, and that causes other issues as well. Especially if you come across those old memories, and you get those those old memories you've been searching for to get them reinserted, and you're like, no wonder I erased 3 weeks of my life. Damn it. I did this to myself and I don't remember doing it, you know? So Caligula says, so you don't have sanity points. The baggage mechanic fulfills that function, right? That is correct. And so um, it's there is a tongue-in-cheek irony to it on purpose. So every character has pockets, calling them pockets, and you fill your pockets with stuff. Some of it is physical, like gear, monies, equipment, tools, weapons, things like that, right? But your pockets also represent other things you're carrying with you: your social status, your mental acuity, all of your skills and talents, your experiences. They all fit into your pockets, and the good stuff that you carry around with you is your gear. So all the goodness that you have about you, all your positive traits are called gear. Your positive traits are all of your experiences, all the people you know that have connections with you, positive connections with you, your wealth, those badass guns you have strapped on your back with the monofilament katana that you're already carrying around with you, or whatever. All that stuff is your gear. Baggage are all your negative traits, and those things start filling your pockets as well. The problem is every time when you have enough baggage and gear and they bump up against each other, all baggage bumps gear. So the more baggage you get, the more gear you lose. Some of that might be physical objects, maybe and narratively, why did you lose your badass gun and monofilament katana? Maybe it got broken, you lost it, you woke up and forgot it and left it somewhere. Your baggage is complicating your life. And so as you gain more baggage, you lose things, you forget things, um you are less attuned with your own body, so that you become more clumsy, maybe. You've lived so long that you've forgotten your childhood when you lived on the beach and you used to sail, and the aquatic life was main part of your life, but that was 137 years ago, and your baggage has come in, and now you don't even remember how to put on your scuba gear any longer. So that's what that system is. And yes, the word baggage is used on purpose. So you are correct there, Palace. That's what that purpose is. So they're not points per se. They are the baggage has a name, a trait associated with it. And hopefully the other members of your party, your constellation, will help you alleviate yourself of that baggage, because they may need you on their side. They don't need you feeling woe is me all the time. So Shai says, did we talk about experience points already? Is there even a metric like that? Because Immortality would throw that out way off, wouldn't it? Yes. So there are no well, okay. Mm, mm. I'll talk about experience points in just a minute, because I want to make sure I get to all of your comments here. Shitlord says, we are already immortal brains in a jar because global warming ozone hole killed the planet 20 years ago, and now we're all living in a false hologram. I don't know about living in a VR world. I guess it wouldn't really matter if we lived in a VR world, because the rules would still be. I mean, the rules are the rules. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to unplug. Drew says, it is not an enemy who brings you back. It is your love interest or your parents who keep bringing you back. Yes, that's also an issue as well. Someone, can you imagine a stalker who just keeps bringing you back, hoping that you recognize them and recognize the love they have for you? And you're just like, who keeps bringing me back to life? Right? Yes, that is a real thing. Drew says, I am so glad my dress jacket in Obsidian Star has pockets. Yep, to carry around all that baggage. Although I'm sure you have a lot of good gear with you there, Drew. And King says, if you don't remember dying, that could be a great plot point. You wake up in some rinky dink station and have to figure out what you've been doing the last 3 years. Exactly. And this part of the game is going to be the most difficult, because we as players are very narcissistic. Let's be honest with ourselves. And what I mean by that, and I don't mean that in a negative way, it's about us. When I make a player character, I am thinking about me. I'm the hero of my own story. It's me. I'm the badass running around with the monofilament katana in the gun, running and gunning. I'm the person. I know I'm being really sarcastic with that part, but my character is a representation of what I think I'd like to experience. The hard part of that is allowing an outsider, the game master, the spiral of this game, to make a story element for my character that affects my memories, my personality even. Um, not only is this a rich storytelling element, but it's going to be very difficult to get this across to other players because if your character wakes up in some rinky-dink station and you don't know what happened, you have a 3-year mental gap in your memories. Is your player character really the bad guy in this situation? Did you do this to yourself? S- Is some did you make a promise with your family and friends and you don't remember this? And these people are trying to bring you back and find out who you are? Um, is your badassery associated with an evil corporation? I'm looking at you there, Total Recall, and you've planned this. Um, yeah, I don't know. Gear is good, especially in the British sense of the word. I hope so. Let's hope there are no pocket monsters in this setting. And no pocket halflings in this world. You could luck out, and your pocket monster is Relaxo. It's so silly. Maybe you should save all the experience metrics for a full episode. Yeah, yeah, because I could tell you what the experience point system is. It's plus one, add one, change one. That's essentially what it boils down to. Plus one is a numeric value. You get to add plus one to something on the character sheet. Um, Add one, you add a trait to your character, and then change one. You get to change a trait on your character to something else. So the two most important ones are the add one, change one. The change one is basically you get to change something on your character due to growth, experience, and things of that nature. Tarzan, taken out of the jungle and brought back to England and known as a noble. I forget what the gray. I was going to say gray skull, Greystone or whatever. Uh, Maybe Tarzan loses a little bit of the animalistic feralness of the jungle and gains a little bit of the nobility and etiquette. Right, that's a change of a character, just shifting one thing to another. So you get to change a thing. Adding a thing is you get to add a trait, which is a good thing. You get to add this part of your gear, and that single word or phrase trait becomes part of your character. I can't tell you what that trait is. You gain that part of your experience. So literally the narrative element that you gain in the game becomes a numerical value in the world. Perfect example. I know I'm going down this rabbit hole, but perfect example is you have a mission on Mars and you gain great experiences climbing, you know, kilometer high mountainsides and cliff sides on Mars. And so then you write down in your character mountains or mountain climbing. So I can't tell you that's what you did in the game. At the end of the game, if you get an experience, you gain experience with climbing mountains. So you write that on character. Next time you go climbing mountains, you get a bonus, you get a plus one. And so you just start filling in things. The traits you fill in are literally the words associated with all of your experiences. And you just keep marking more and more and more. So that's how experience points works. Um, Parents bring you back so they can enslave you too. Yeah. There may be people who don't want to live into the future. They're like, I liked when I was a teenager. I'm not going to grow up anymore. I'm not going to do that. Which also brings about some pretty nasty things as well when you start thinking about it. Which is why this is a very dark. It's not a dystopia. It is a dark utopia. So, um, technology and immortality. Players, um, I wanted to encourage the fact that players need to engage in the setting in order to achieve what they want. So to achieve immortality, you need to have a body. You don't need to, but you might want to have a physical body to live in. Where is that at? Who takes care of it? Where did you get it from? How was it created? Do you trust the agency that designed and is housing your body for you to engage in your immortality? That's an important part of the game. The second part is your mind. Where is your backup? How often do you back up your brain? Um, do do you make an effort to retrieve the zipper that might still be in your dead body on some space station in some floating around Saturn or something? Do you go after it? Do you send other agencies to go after it? Do you trust those agencies to retrieve it? How about your fellow players? Your fellow Those players are playing characters. Do they themselves go on a mission to retrieve you a small zip drive to return back so that you can rejoin the party? All of these things require outside third parties. And so that means that complicates your life. Drama is complication, which is conflict, which is storytelling. So, yes. Drew's like, utopias are just delusional dystopias. True, true. um, Also, I'm not sure how immortality would affect things like aging diseases, like Alzheimer's and sundowners and degradation of the brain. I'm sure there in this setting that there are technologies that allow us to, dare I say, wash away the debris and build it with new materials, our neurological pathways, and to that goal, that is why players must engage with their um, VIANs, VIANDS. VIANs are staples. It is the Filipino word for like staples of food, like with your rice or noodles, and you have certain things with it. And so players must leave their little turtle shell and go out into the world to exercise and take acquire, like, I don't know, hypercalcium supplements and wash away the radiation that's in their body from traveling through deep space, and curing the cancers that are growing up and the mutations that are in their biological bodies. And if even if you live in a mechanical body, there's still radiations and things that can harshly affect electronics that need to be washed away, as well as making sure that your muscles don't atrophy, making sure that if you are in a mechanical body that you reboot and reassess and get rid of viruses, mechanical viruses and things like that. So it's not just about clicking a button saying that you're immortal and that's it. It requires work on behalf of the players and the people in the world. So, for example, if the players are hunting after a bad guy, that bad guy can't really hide too much because they're going to have to come out of their shell to achieve their immortality. And then you could follow that pathway of the agencies that are doing it. For example, there are plenty of neutral agencies that keep their bodies on ice. Those neutral agencies probably don't want to be murder killed because of some conflict that the players have with some enemy. So they might just give up information like, yeah, we've got 3 sets of their bodies stored in the basement. What, do you want to go see them? Because I don't want to be murder killed, right? The End King says, in the Neverland system that's surrounded by pirates, Peter Pan creates infinite young jackets for his crew, never letting them grow up. Yeah, yeah. Um, and End King, I think, and I know all of you are thinking this: children and transhumanism and posthumanism very easily falls into dark corners. I can't talk about them too openly on YouTube, but you already know, just from that point about Peter Pan not allowing the um the young members, the crew that he was playing with, to grow up. Are there habitats like that? Yeah. Ugh. Yes. Drew says, so to keep your immortality means that there is no rest for the wicked. Nope, no rest at all. None, because at a certain point, depending on the rumors and the reputation that your character is obtaining, like if you can't stay out of the limelight, there are other people that might want you. Like for example, can you imagine how many people today would want to possess a copy of the mind and the genetic material of, say, like Taylor Swift, and have grow a clone of her body and then download her brain so that someone could like have her as a puppet or something? It's pretty nasty stuff. Are there people doing it in this world? Let's say the answer to that is a number above zero, right? So, um, would could there be individuals in this world that own one or more copies of the player characters, using them for their own deviant uh, desires? And the answer to that would be yes. Sending them on missions, using them in their private homes, um, putting them in the VR worlds and experimenting on their brain. Yes, all the above. Yes, yes, yes. Shai says there was something like that in Within the Ring of Fire. The trolls were wise ancient magic users, but the gods cursed them so they would eternally have the minds of children. So they acted like monsters. Yep. Immortal pizza? Because that looks like pepperoni, and I'm feeling that. I'm really feeling that. So many of the air quotes missions that the players may go on, um, I would hope that over time, those adventures, those assignments would be very personal for the player characters, meaning like there might be a full mission to do nothing but destroy copies of themselves that some evil entity or adversary out there has been doing to manipulate or control or bribe or threaten the player characters with releasing. For example, maybe there's an evil adversary that has kept 3 years of someone's memories, knowing that they can use those memories and say, I can release them to the public or release them to your own enemies. You don't remember what happened, but I've got the details. I got the deets right here. And you're not going to want that information to get out. And the player character's like, I don't remember what happened. Why would I care? And then come to find out maybe they were accused of committing a murder. And they, through the player character's own eyes, they committed some heinous acts. What would you think, like, did I really do that? Is that someone pretending to be me in my body, but there's a different mind in there? you know don't do that, Andrew. Like, don't you worry, DBJ, my friend, I will destroy you for free. Yeah, you won't have to pay anybody. I For those who don't know, I practiced martial arts for quite a number of years, and I participated in the Arnold Expo here in Columbus, Ohio. And I don't know, it was like at the time, it was like back in 2007, 8, 9, something like that. And and at the end of it, it was the question was like, would I do it again? And I was like, hell, if I wanted to get my ass kicked, I can get my ass kicked for free. I don't have to pay for it. It was like $75 to join in. But yeah, anyway, I've got a gold and 2 bronze medals from that event. I still remember that. Mike Marin, hey M says, M squared. Sorry, I'm still surprised by the number of new releases from dead music artists like Bowie and Elvis, and they're not even evil applications. Well, except for the evil of music producers, anyway. You are correct, and a factor in this Obsidian Star setting could be AI systems being tasked with reincarnating the personalities of people who have passed by assembling all of the information about their life. Um, and maybe the player characters are part of that, or could be instrumental in bringing back someone's mind, right? If you've ever seen the movie Her, and it wasn't Einstein, but uh Tombly's operating system that he fell in love with was having growing a relationship with another AI system based on a famous scientist or author or something like that. And he felt a little bit like taken aback because he wasn't an AI system. And his AI girlfriend is just like, oh, he's so nice and we get to talk all the time and blah blah blah. And he's like, well, how do I fit into this? So yes, that is a possibility as well, especially if someone very important, like a scientist or a military person or political person, I don't know, they know nuclear launch codes, or there was some um, doomsday device, buried in the regolith of the moon or whatever, right? Like who uncovers that? And that might be a thing. Mike Marin says, funny you mention it because we were talking about plutocracies. The ones releasing new Bowie and Nirvana and Elvis are the plutocrats of tomorrow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And exploiting people's um legacy is a thing we have the ability to do today. Like for example, yeah, which martial arts? Any chess boxing? I've seen chess. I haven't seen chess boxing um in like live, but chess boxing is kind of strange there. A bunch of boxers and chess players. I mean, I suppose you could be a weakling old chess player and just try not to get yourself knocked out and win through chess. Or you could be like a big badass and you're like, I don't know how to play chess, but I will knock this mofo out. Yeah. And we talked a little bit about plutocracies, right? Yeah, we live in a society where we think we live in a democracy or communism or socialism, but is it really that? Or are we just calling it that? Right? Yeah. Yeah, it's usually like the wealthy. Now, we may have to redefine what we consider wealthy if you have a society that doesn't need money any longer to decide what wealth is. We may have a new definition of what wealth is. Wealth can be, we can go backwards, and wealth could be land ownership, like astral and stellar bodies. The more stellar, interstellar locations you own, physical locations you maybe not own, but you preside over could be wealth. There's a reputation economy as well. So we're living in a reputation economy right now in terms of the greater people think of you as in a reputation, the greater outcomes you have in terms of moving forward. I bring up the MCDM Kickstarter that was over $4 million. Um, produced by Matt Colville and his gang of individuals who those individuals came there because of a reputation economy. An individual that you want to work with who has great artistic talent and allows you to develop things. Now you may specifically not like Matt Colville. I'm saying that reputation wise, he has a very high standard. Kelsey with Shadow Dark, and Dungeon Masterpiece and all that. I mean, Baron Dorop and things like that. There are a lot of people who are luminaries in our tabletop role playing arena who have a very Bob World Builder who have high reputations, and those high reputations mean maybe people reach out and invite you to certain events or grant you access to things before others. And in a vast reputation economy, um, you become a trusted factor, and other people like gravity gravitate towards those with greater reputations, giving you access to utopic technologies. So yeah, reputation economies, good thing, or maybe bad thing, depending on what side of it you're on. Yeah. Mike Mayer says, that people would download Muhammad Ali to beat the greatest in a boxing match. Yeah. Yeah. Heck, if you're rich enough, you could you could um gain a lot of like status and clout and like I'm the man. Yeah, I'm rich because living in my house, I have 6 or 7 of the greatest minds or famous people that I've reconstituted with AI computer systems, grown their bodies, and now they live in my house. I mean, can they leave my house? No, well, no. I edited their brains so that they wouldn't want that to happen. I put shock collars in all of them, but Muhammad Ali, yeah, I'm gonna eventually box this dude you know, till it shows that I'm the greatest, even though I'm wearing like a cyber suit and have heightened reflexes. And yeah, pleasure is the only currency once you're immortal. Ooh, that may be a thing as well. And that very easily could go to addiction. Just plugging the pleasure center of your brain with a big giant cord and you're done. Um, Although I'm not sure how you wouldn't have a very much of a society that way unless machines and AI took over and they just allow most of the citizenry, like 70% of the people who are plugged into these systems. Um, Also making me think of the movie Surrogates too. Hmm. Shay says, yeah, but they got cybernetic brains that don't get damaged no matter how much you knock them around. That's a truism too. Unless you turn off the protections in your brain so you have artificial brain damage, which is kind of a hard thing to think about. Drew says, all I can say is you knew me before I got famous with my own RPG system. All right. Well, we will trade signed books. That's what we'll do. Fry from Futurama, yep, with his robot Lucy Lou girlfriend. Hells yeah. Hells yeah. Yeah, that's yeah. Pretty horrible stuff if you think about it. Hell, there's a very dark Superman Kryptonian history storyline where um clone it was about clone rights, and the very rich and powerful on Krypton a few generations before even Jor-El and Kal-El existed, that they were using cloned bodies and carving off bits and pieces of the clone bodies to replace their own bodies so that they always had like an extra liver, extra heart that they need, some extra brain matter or whatever. And there was a group of people that were like, yeah, but their brains are active. Like these are living people. The only reason that you're keeping them in a childish set brains you're not educating them and they're not free to go. They are in chambers, but they are still living. They are still thinking. And one of the royal family cloned his own mom to have as a uh, uh, for sexual gratification, let's say. And it was pretty. When I read that, I was just like, "What the hell is this about?" And I think eventually he was found out, brought before the courts, and then pulled a gun and blew his own brains out. But anyway, I was just like, "That's pretty dark. That's not pretty dark. That's really dark." And that was a Kryptonian storyline or something like that. Yeah, Shitlord says, yeah, but we already covered that the game would be too boring. Yeah, if everybody's getting a continuous cocaine orgasm. I got to make a T-shirt about that. I don't know if I want to wear it, but someone's gonna. Yeah, it's like I'm living a cocaine orgasm. Shit. I don't know what image you'd put with it, but I'm even sure a logo would look pretty horrible. Caligula says, so the pleasure addiction would give you a lot of baggage, but does baggage end up killing you at some point? Not necessarily, but it will make your character unplayable. Now, you, narratively, too much baggage, your character may in this setting, they may self delete, if that makes sense. But it doesn't necessarily mean it automatically leads to death. Let's put it that way. If I if I stated it correctly. Um, Says, I think the palette gets more diverse. Okay. There's hedonistic pleasure, sure, but also more mature pleasures of duty, art, metaphysical purity, restraint, and more refined pursuits. I wonder about that because one of the arguments we have today is if you if we had universal if we established a universal basic income, worldwide. Like we basically said, hey, everybody, everyone's going to get food, shelter, all the necessities of life for free. You don't have to work for it at all. What would people do? And a lot of people think people who work, like myself, I work, to be honest with you, I work very hard. I do this and then I go have a full-time job as well. That's very many hours. Some people would say, well, people would just be lazy. And the argument against that would be, well, would people be lazy? Because we don't know, right? You're going to get yourself a sizable part of the population that's just going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to plug, I'm going to do the laziest, most drug-induced thing I could do ever in life. But maybe we might have a world filled with artistry that we've never even imagined. Could you imagine the amount of art and writing and dance and music that would happen if artists didn't have to starve for their art? But there could be an argument made that the starving part of artistry is what pushes a person past the point at which the starving part of it is what makes the art great, right? I don't know. Who's to say? Science, chemistry, if you don't have to worry about your survival and that's not taking up most of your time, how many people would devote themselves to curing cancer? If you don't have to argue about money to, Taste is says, hasn't technology already replaced artists now? Yeah, it seems like it, right? We can't. We already went forward. It's very difficult to go back. Even though we have many people, which I kind of agree, are like, you can't steal my art. It's like, yeah, it's already been done. UBI, don't blame me. I voted for the Yangmeister. Secure the bag. Yeah. I mean, we'd have to get past the whole like I'm getting free money concept. Um, but you know, I I really know what would happen? I don't know. Would it be to collapse of society with a UBI? I don't know. Mike says, I hope anyway that the sum total of human endeavors isn't conquered by insular isolated hedonism into a rotting husk of a stagnant civilization. That could be put on a t-shirt as well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm a glass half full, more positive than negative person, but I get it, right? I do get it. Yeah, DC gives us little hints every now and again. That Krypton blowing up was a good thing. Yeah, 'cause it was a pretty horrible place to live. Yeah, we forget about that. It's like Superman came from Krypton and his world blew up, and it's like, thank goodness. Yeah, chicken and an egg, which came first, the art or the suffering? Um, and there are many people who feel like the struggle culture, and I don't, I guess I wouldn't call it a culture. Um, uh, people who there are people who have achieved greatness, and some of that greatness has come about because of the struggles they went through to get there. And to take that away from society, some feel that we would become stagnant. My argument is that we have people who purposefully put themselves through struggle to achieve a goal, even though they can live a hedonistic life. So we can artificially create struggle, and that in and of itself could be part of culture, right? Like we can we have airlines to allow us to fly from one place to another, but there are people who will jog and ride a bike to get there. They don't need to, but they do it. So, yeah, and things like that. So I don't know. Caligula says, "What was the precious technology you mentioned yesterday? A core or something?" I'll mention that in just a minute. Mike says, "There's concepts in Zen and Bushido of creating pieces of art, like perfectly smooth stone gardens, which you then destroy for no one's enjoyment." Yes. Is Are they called mandalas? These not sand sculptures, sand patterns. Um, that are poured with sand and they're very temporary. Yeah, 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 yeah. Sometimes, there might be art just made for art's sake that's very extremely temporary. Like, I don't know, getting millions of people together, each holding a different colored sign to make a big image to capture it once, and then everybody just goes away, right? Like there might be artistic endeavors that are endeavors for no other purpose than to just see it happen once, and then it just fades away. So yeah. There's interpretations of art where it's pursuit of the craft itself that has value, or a degree of purity, rather than something pretty I can sell. Yes. There's a book edited by George R. R. Martin called it's an anthology series, and one of the stories was called The Death Artist. And the Death Artist, uh, using posthumanism, zipped himself into jackets, and his artistry was this is weird to say. His artistry was dying in horrific manners over long periods of time. And in it, people would gather for weeks to watch him in a like a holographic style stage, even though it technically wasn't holographic. Um, but the realism of the stage was real. So he was like in this winter weather, and he was suffering from frostbite and everything. And he had a dog that was his best friend, and he cut himself open, and the dog tasted the warm blood. And then the dog was hungry and started eating his liver out and stuff like that. And then the dog howled because he basically killed his best friend. And he was a death artist. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird and cool, but ooh. Um, the argument against artists needing to starve and struggle is that humans will always struggle. Humans in a utopia will still go through horrors which would inform their art. I wonder. I wonder what that struggle would be. And imagining that is kind of strange too, right? And I'll talk about the technology just in his 2 seconds. Drew says, that is why I like role playing games, since the fiction created only exists in the moment when it is played, and then in the memories of the people who have been there. You're absolutely right there, Drew. Um, I've often heard that the epitome of a role playing session is that it's not you saying your character did a thing, but in your memory, it was you doing the thing. You vividly remember an event that happened in your brain as if you did it, yet there was no physical space that it happened, but it embedded in the engrams in your brain. You're like, no, I jumped across that cliff. I narrowly escaped the falling, collapsing bridge or something. And truly remembering it, almost as if you could like taste it and feel it and stuff. I've always heard that's like the top level of like role playing. Like if you could ever get to that point. So I don't know. Will space Buddhism help you lose baggage? I would say yes. So what I was talking about, the core yesterday, about the precious technology, the core technology you mentioned, it wasn't that. Okay, this is a game. Very quickly, game mechanic. There are 12 types of technology. Each of those technologies is a type of combat wise is a type of damage level. Each of those technologies, instead of going shopping for specific types of gear, your character will have blueprints. I'm still going to call them blueprints. And let's say you have cryotechnology as a blueprint for your character. So you list that down on your character sheet, cryotechnology. So when you go to another place and you need equipment, you can use a blueprint to print out any of the listed types of devices under cryotechnology. The only limitation is that the place you go to print it may or may not allow you to print it out. But instead of writing down like um, uh, guns and grenades and armor and other devices, instead what you have are classes of technology and blueprints. And so if you have a cryotech blueprint, you could print out a cryo pistol or a cryo rifle or a cryo defense fiber for your armor, or whatever the case might be, cryostasis, so field or whatever, things like that. You could print those out when you get to where you're going. So that's what it was. It's different types of technology in different categories. So yeah. Yeah, Drew says, for me, the immersion is with the fiction, not necessarily with my character, which is why I can have very intense experiences, even though I use third person. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's almost as if you are there experiencing it. How like a disembodied experience. It's weird to think about that, but yes, Drew, yes, 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 absolutely. Um, I'm with you in that fact because I kind of role play the same way. Like I like the experiences of everybody and everything in the world. So yeah, Shai says tasting stuff in RPGs, the apotheosis of deep immersion. Yeah, I can just taste it. I can taste the copper of the smell of sulfur and the taste of the iron and blood on the tongue and the fear, the palpable fear of the population as they run for it, something like that. I'm gonna have to get out of here, guys. I don't want to turn off my microphone because I know if I try to turn it back on, it's gonna be crazy. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. We're going to continue our discussion tomorrow. I'm sure you guys mentioned one or more things, um, especially about the storytelling part of this and the post-human part of this. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Your time is very valuable. Thank you very much for spending it here. I hope we, the brilliant individuals that you are, were able to make some change in your tabletop role-playing experiences. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and I will see thee tomorrow, very early here in the state, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, guys, have a great one. See you later. Peace and tranquility.